Hey guys, this is Eric Young, and you're listening to Booking the Territory.
Hey, this is Ring of Honor superstar Donovan Dijak, and you're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
This is a one-man gang. You're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
This is Booking the Territory, a pro wrestling podcast hosted by Mike Mills, Hardbody Harper from Wildcat Sports and Entertainment, and the mentally irregular Doc Turner. This podcast is a mix of your topics and thoughts in the world of pro wrestling, along with interviews and discussions with current independent stars and your favorite stars from the past. And now, here's your host, Mike Mills.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast, where pro wrestling past meets pro wrestling's present. Doc, we got a ton of stuff to discuss this week, man. From the emails that I've gotten, some top 5 feedback from last week. I got and then we're doing the top 5 this week, which is the top 5 people who are not in the WWE Hall of Fame, submitted by a long-time listener of ours at T-Hog94. Appreciated TK for submitting that to us. Just got a ton of stuff, man, to discuss, man. Doc, how you been, man? You all right?
I've been out there grabbing life by the pussy.
Oh, what? What does that mean?
Well, I live in a locker room, and that's the way we talk there.
Oh, you're referencing Trump.
No, I'm talking about the locker room that I hang out in. We go out, we all get together right before we're done, and we all put our hand in there and go, 1, 2, 3, grab them by the pussy, and we all leave and go out on our day afterwards.
Hey, Donald Trump. You must have seen Mullet Morton's tweet.
I saw lots of things by those guys, all those little characters. And let me just tell you, before we'll give him some love, I saw this God Bowl done reels talking about how your heel co-host isn't over. Buddy, you're the one talking about me, not the other way around. Well, I guess I'm talking about you now, so we're even. But, yeah, you need to watch it before you get stretched. So I'm in a stretching mood. But, yeah, so Mullet Morton has been out there as a political watchdog on the Trump campaign, I heard.
Well, before we give Mullet Morton too much flack, I got to say, he's always tweeting out our shows. He seems to be extremely popular on Twitter. I mean, the guy mustn't have a job, for one, because he's always tweeting out, but that's neither.
His job is to rock and roll and servicing rats and selling like a motherfucker.
Yeah, evidently. So he tweeted out after this news broke with Trump, and we don't get into politics on this show. It's just not what we do. But he tweeted out the 1980s were great at Real Donald Trump, but you still had to ask the ring rats before you grabbed them in the pussy. Hashtag all rats matter.
That's true. Now, let me just tell you something else. One of our good, strong podcasts that we always endorse and always we put them over, and we listen. We're faithful listeners ourselves. Is the 605 Super Podcast? But I got a little bone to pick with them. They recently booted the Eye of Gibson out of the top 10 and sent him packing for a while. So, buddy, Eye or Gibson or whatever you go by, you're still welcome over here. So we still love you over here. And even though you're not as good without Morton with you, we'll take you anyway.
No, I don't. He got the boot, but that to me that didn't mean that he's on the outs. Like Brian Last did compliment the Eye of Gibson pretty strongly. Let me say that. So no, they're not on the outs or anything.
Okay. Yeah, I read some of this Twitter stuff, but I'm not quite sure what's going on. So I did see that you got it explained to you exactly what the gram weight was on an 8-ball of cocaine. So now you know exactly how to plan your purchases for this coming weekend. Because I heard that you and Mullet Morton got a big weekend planned together.
No, me and Mullet Morton don't have anything. That came from at MondZY 805. Evidently. He must have Googled, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't do 8 balls. He must have Googled, Armando must have Googled how much a 8-ball was, and he had sent it to me that it was 3-point-something grams. And, yeah, Mullet Morton, chimed in after. So, no, I did not do any. But I will say this, Mullet Morton also claimed that evidently he said that I chickened out last week and that I had done one on before this week's show, and I'm like, dude, can you let it rest? I'm not.
Mike don't even take aspirin, man.
Yeah, it just come on, man. He said, what did he say? I can't even. Oh, he said that I pussied out last week, but this week Doc and I convinced Mike to finally do it.
I grabbed it.
He said this week you and him finally decided or finally convinced me to do my first one. Well, he's not telling the truth, so let's leave it at that. Anyway, Mullen and Morton, we appreciate your support, man. You always
are we at the 100th episode yet?
No, we're at like 83 or 84, so no.
Why don't we all do a big 8-ball of Coke for our 100th episode?
Why don't I just say you're crazy? I don't do that type of stuff. I don't partake in that. That's not the thing to do. However, I did want to also shout out at DenimFritz605. You're the greatest, man. We appreciate your tweets and everything for what we do. And Denim Fritz, he actually goes after Mullet and Morton a lot of times. So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you attacking the Mullet and Morton after he claims I'm doing 8-ball. So thank you, Denim Fritz 605, for your support of me. All right.
Hey, so what's up? What I hear about? I got some news leaking in that we got some 5-star reviews. What's up with that?
Yeah, we did have some 5-star reviews, but I gotta pull it up real quick before we.
God Almighty!
In the meantime, while we're waiting.
Well, is it from our? I've got a sense here that our Smoky Mountain review show is going over big time.
Smoky Mountain is doing really, really well. It's amazing how well the show is doing. I forgot if I mentioned it last week or not, but the numbers on the Smoky Mountain shows are actually surpassing this show that we do each and every week.
So we have about 70 to 75,000 normal listeners, and so you're saying Smoky Mountain is north of that?
I never said 70, 75,000. Are you talking about in a week? No, we don't.
I said somewhere between 70 and 75,000.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to the people. We do a lot of downloads, but not quite that many. Okay?
We don't do more than 70 downloads?
You said 75,000.
I said between 70 and 75,000.
Okay, let's get to the point. So our Smoky Mountain 5-star reviews, or a couple of 5-star reviews, one was from WV2 on iTunes, said, as a longtime lover of all things Smoky Mountain Wrestling, it's great to hear these recaps. Can't wait till you guys get to the Stormtrooper. Doc, was that angle pretty good?
I don't know about pretty good, but I have a feeling we're going to talk about that we'll file that under the things you couldn't do in 2016 category.
Okay, that sounds good. It sounds very interesting, so I can't wait to get to the Stormtrooper. So thank you, WV2, for your 5-star review on our iTunes. Also want to say thanks to Marty Howell, who says, great podcast, with a 5-star review. He says, I've been a fan of the show for a while. Now that they've thrown in some Smoky Mountain episodes, it's become one of my favorites. I enjoy their top 5 conversations, the weekly wrestling recaps, great interviews, and now promos of the week is icing on the cake. Thank you, Marty Howell. We appreciate it. We appreciate the 5-star review. And I should add, too, while we're at it, please, if you're listening to us and enjoy the show, give us some 5-star reviews. We would greatly appreciate it. It means a lot. The 5-star reviews help us out when it comes to iTunes. Basically, we will show up on more searches, the more 5-star reviews we have, and the more people that actually, there's a question on there that says, was this review helpful? If you click yes, that also helps us too. So if you're on there, not only give us a 5-star review and write us a little something that we'll read on air, but also click the yes, was this review helpful? So that goes for you too, Doc, because I know you use iTunes.
So we've been recording for a little bit, right?
What do you mean a little bit?
We've been recording. We're a few minutes into the show now, right?
Yeah, we are.
Have you told the people where Harper is? Otherwise, they may think that we just canned his ass or some shit.
Harper couldn't make it today. He had to go to the House of Shock, I think it is, in New Orleans to do something for Wildcat Sports. He's a big-time TV star now. I mean, man, we get him where we can. The last 4 weeks we've had him once.
So now we've got BTT rocket strapped to his ass. Our guest this week's got the BTT rocket strapped to his ass. How many BTT rockets do we have?
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because this week's guest is Vinny Marseglia. And if you remember, we had Vinny Marseglia on the show back in March of this year.
And where is he now?
Vinny is now a member of the Kingdom with Matt Taven and TK O'Ryan in Ring of Honor Wrestling.
You put that BTT rocket strap to you, and you go straight to the top. We're just a little future John Cena factory right here.
No, what are you talking? That might not be a compliment people want. Future John Cena. Give me a break. Okay, so listener feedback on Twitter, and I don't want to say who this was, but we did get some feedback, and this was via DM. That's why I'm not going to say who it was. But the listener said it's obvious that Hardbody Harper just doesn't want to admit to banging fat ring rats, but he wants to know if you troll. But the listener wants to know, Harper, if you troll Walmart on his slow rat banging week for potential suitors. Well, Harper's not here, but I'd mention that. So, Doc, do you think Harper does that on a slow week?
Is there a Walmart down there in Metairie?
Yes, there is.
Then I want to go ahead and say absolutely.
And then we got one from Amy, but I will read that one next week when Harper returns.
All right.
Yeah, we'll save that one. Shout out again to Mullet Morton. Shout out to Denham Fritz. Shout out to the Eye of Gibson, Fake Stan Lane, and Godbold. We appreciate everything that you do. You guys are great. You always.
I like Sue the Shooter.
Sue the Shooter's pretty good, too. Sue the Shooter's crazy. That story on the 605 Super Podcast, to plug them real quick, was sick.
Sounded dirty.
It did. You have to listen to it. It was a few weeks back. Which one of the programs from WWE won this week, Doc? Do you think it was Raw or SmackDown, or you just don't give two shits?
Oh, I think it was absolutely Raw.
Okay, so SmackDown actually won, according to @FunWWE polls. People voted, and they said 76% said SmackDown won over 24% with Raw getting votes. And then
I don't. Well, to be fair, I can't rate the whole SmackDown because I quit watching.
You tuned out at a certain point. I know you did.
They pissed me off.
All right, Doc. So I meant to discuss a lot of stuff related to TNA this week, and first thing was the ratings did drop a little. They went down to 305,000 on the October 6th episode. We are recording.
That's a pretty big drop, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think they were at like 370 the week before.
That's a pretty big drop.
The 10-6 episode they dropped. Again, we're recording this on October the 13th.
But that's not the big news.
Well, before we touch the Billy Corgan stuff, first thing, I like seeing Aiden O'Shea on the show. Didn't you?
Oh, good angle. I like his gimmick of helping being Corgan's like a handler, and that I thought he did a great job. BTT.
He is a former BTT guest. It was good to see him on the show. Aiden O'Shea, real cool guy. Spent about an hour with me a few months back and recorded with us. We also got to see Marshe Rocket. He was in a six-man tag match that was in the X Division six-man tag.
He's bigger than I thought he was, I guess.
You didn't realize he was that big?
I guess not.
He's a big dude, but he can work the X Division style, and I think that's why they've put him in the X Division. I like that because it changes up. You know, you don't have the same small guys, so to say. So I thought that was good. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Fine with it. I'd rather see him in the X Division than in that goofy round thing where they do the rounds.
Yeah, I totally agree. Doc, the Grand Champion thing, the thing with the rounds, we've kind of been vocal about this. I would venture to say that's the one part of Impact neither one of us likes.
Yeah, that and Gail Kim I like some of the knockouts that Gail Kim fights, so I watched those to make sure that she hopefully root against her. But yeah, that round thing, I fast forward to that, and it's great because it's got a little clock on it to tell me when I'm getting close to the end because they're counting down the round.
So you like the rounds?
No, I fast forwarded, and
okay. I misunderstood.
I can see the numbers going away, and then they get there in the middle, and they raise one of them's hand, and I can see all of it on fast forward.
Well, we fussed about the rounds last week, and this is no shot at Aaron Rex, former Damian Sandow, because I'm glad they landed Sandow in this promotion. We don't like the rounds. We hate the rounds. The rounds are terrible, if you ask us. Well, I made mention last week that, in the UK, it seems to be a popular thing for them to do rounds with wrestling. And Harper even mentioned that when Luke Hawx was over there a few weeks back, that, one of the things Luke talked about was how they do the rounds in wrestling.
Is that when he wrestled AJ Styles?
No.
Oh.
So I had a UK listener reach out to us, David Gill at G187 on Twitter. He had mentioned something about the rounds. He lives in the UK, and he said he can't stand the world of, wrestling when it comes to adding in rounds. He says the rounds always kill it for him, which David we get thousands of downloads from the UK because I see them. David is just one person from the UK who told me that. So I'm curious, as I read that, what the other UK listeners think. So tweet us at BTT_podcast. And if you're not on Twitter, send us a email to bookingtheterritory@gmail.com because I'm curious to know if, he's not the only one in the UK that feels this way. Because
what are we missing with this round thing? Because it feels silly to me. But hey, what's the strategy behind it? What makes this work for you guys?
Yeah, what are we missing? Because we definitely don't like it. If you're a UK listener and you like the rounds, please educate us. Doc, we got one more thing before we get into the Billy Corgan stuff.
Hey, but you know what? That Gill person you just talked about, I read something on Twitter. He's now checking out Smoky Mountain. So we were able to take Eastern Tennessee wrestling from 23 years ago and take it across the ocean and deposit it in the motherland of England without ever leaving our houses.
I thought that was really cool that he tweeted that to us, because this is a guy who would never have known anything about Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Never.
There you go.
And David's been listening to us for a very long time.
That's what makes us wrestling and podcast Jesuses.
Okay, I'm not going to go there, but whatever. Before we get into Corgan, the last thing, Doc, Lashley lost to Eddie Edwards, the world title. What were your thoughts on that? Because I got the impression you did not like the fact that they put the belt on Eddie Edwards.
Well, let me clarify. I didn't think he should lose the belt to anybody. I think he's been dominating the whole company, really, not just the division, but the company for the past several weeks, couple of months. And I mean, he collected all the belts. He's been punishing people, and he's been cutting really great promos and being really bombastic with it, which is a weird word to say attached to Lashley. But I would, he's got a real fight coming up, MMA fight, and I guess they wanted it off of him. I would have left the belt on him, just so that he could be maybe like taking 5 minutes during training, cut a promo on all the jabronis that are back in TNA, and having them all fight to see who gets a piece of him when he comes back. I don't know. I just think it would have built some more luster around the title for him to come back with the title. Now, the real question, so Eddie Edwards, Drew Galloway, EC3, whoever it was, I think it was a poor decision to put it on anybody. But the real question is there even going to be a company for Lashley to come back to?
Before we go there, so your problem is not Eddie Edwards?
No, I don't give a shit. It didn't matter who it was.
I mean, so are you saying you don't like Eddie Edwards?
The only person. No, I don't care. Eddie Edwards is fine. It shouldn't have been any of them, so it doesn't matter. I don't care. The person that they selected doesn't matter. The fact that they took it off him is what was wrong. The only person that could have walked in and taken the title from Lashley and I'd have bought it was if they'd assigned Alberto Del Rio, and he came in and did that, but he was too busy getting stabbed. Y'all wrestlers out there that listen, and I know you guys listen. Y'all don't want to admit it, but y'all are out there listening. Y'all need to stop getting stabbed.
Two people got stabbed recently. That's not like the 80s.
If I'm a wrestler, I'll be keeping my eyes out if I was one of you wrestlers.
Shut up, Doc. Billy Corgan lawsuit. So here it is.
He's suing everybody.
This is insane. Mike Johnson,
who do you want to sue? I just put them all on.
Them on. Mike Johnson, PWI Insider, reported this today on October the 13th, 2016. As we record this, he says, after months of speculation as to what was going to happen with the company, its ownership, and its finances, TNA President Billy Corgan filed a lawsuit against TNA Impact Wrestling, its parent company Impact Ventures, LLC, TNA Chairman or chairwoman, I guess I should say, even though it says chairman in a report, Dixie Carter, TNA Chief Financial Officer Dean Broadhead, and Carter's husband, Serge Salius, on October the 12th in Chancery Court of Nashville, Tennessee. In a locker room meeting with, and then it goes on to say, so those are all the people he's suing, or he has a lawsuit against. This is insane. In a locker room meeting with TNA talent on October the 4th in Orlando, Carter told her roster that the pay-per-view was never in danger of not taking place, but did admit the company had to do something or had to do some scrambling in order for everything to fall into place for Bound for Glory. What the scrambling was, Mike Johnson reports, has never been explained or revealed publicly. During PWI Insider's reporting of the locker room meeting, we noted that Corgan declined to be in the meeting despite being invited to do so. A number of TNA personalities noted over the course of the Bound for Glory pay-per-view and October TV tapings that just took place that there was obvious tension between Corgan and Carter, and they wondered how it might be resolved, especially if Corgan is supposed to be overseeing the day-to-day business of the company. Now, there are two things here, Doc, I'm going to let you weigh in. One, he's suing everybody. Two, I think it was telling that he didn't want to be in the meeting with Dixie Carter, because one of the things that I think happens when you don't like somebody or you're really pissed off with somebody, you don't even want to be in their presence. So I thought that was telling. Now go ahead and give me your assessment of things, and then I'll respond.
Man, I don't know. This is certainly, to me, feels like Corgan's frustrated, and he's like, I'm going to get some resolution, and this shit's going to come to a head. It sounds like, in things I've read, that Dixie has convoluted this thing, made it more convoluted than Donald Trump's tax return, and trying to get out of paying taxes with diluting her share in the company and selling off pieces and incurring debt, which makes it a horribly unattractive product to sell anybody. That's probably why they wanted to go to WWE, is to use the money from the library to pay off the debt so that Corgan could run free without the debt and own the company. Something happened to that deal. I've got to think that Corgan has good, legal advice, being having entertainment lawyers at the disposal from his, multi-decades of being in this industry and being better at entertainment than Dixie. So I don't know. I mean, I think that, all this stuff is sealed and we're not going to know about it just yet. I got to think that this is going to play out where either Corgan gets it and it continues, or Dixie wins and it dies, because I don't think she can sustain it. So I guess we're all in the boat. We're all rooting for Corgan now.
I'm worried. I don't know about you.
Well, one of the things I was saying before you didn't know how to work your technology is that we're all in the boat of rooting for Billy Corgan. So
yeah, we are.
And there's a big, just so you know, I hope you don't make people listen to this, because there's like a 2-minute gap where I'm just sitting there waiting for you to come back off mute. So there's a big empty dead space there.
I'll edit it out, idiot. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
All right, we'll go from there. Let's move on to Raw. Raw did 2.76 million viewers this week. This is the new benchmark, Doc, under 3 million. And it's sad because there were a couple times last.
How's your territory coming?
Well, according to Paul Levesque, it's doing great. People consume the product differently now. Bullshit. Under 3 million viewers is a new norm. It's a new benchmark. It's a new watermark, whatever the hell you want to call it. I call it. And this was a good. This week's Raw was decent.
It was serviceable.
There were some good things.
They went out there. It was like a third or fourth starter in baseball that went out there and eats up innings and stuff. I mean, there's a place for that.
I'm going to come back to the Paige thing in a second, but I will say this. They announced Sasha and Charlotte in Hell in a Cell. Real quick, Doc, do you think they should main event the show? The Hell in a Cell show? Me either. No. I think the champion should.
That's right. It's a world champion thing, but I mean, those two women are going to tear it up. I hope they don't somebody doesn't get seriously injured, because they always seem to really go all out. And I hope Charlotte bleeds.
Okay, we'd have had heat if you'd have said you hope Sasha bleeds.
She bleeds once a month.
No, I agree. I do not agree. I do not want to see any of the women juice for one. However, I think these women should semi-main. I don't think, I heard people say, well, they're in Boston, should they main event because of that? No, I don't think so. I think you let Owens with the Universal title and Rollins main event, and you put these ladies on in the semi-main, which is still a great thing. This is not the time, just because it's in Hell in a Cell, that they main. However, you never know what WWE is going to do. You just never know. Did you like the segment that Kevin Owens did, Doc, with Foley, when everybody's got sympathy for Foley because he's taking those crazy bumps throughout his career, and then Owens popped off at the mouth when Foley was saying that him and Rollins were going to be at Hell in the Cell. Owens popped off at the mouth and tells Foley he just can't go around booking Hell in a Cell matches so that Owens can one day be a washed up GM like Foley is.
Yeah, because Mick Foley's as close to, I think, you can get as universal good guy, legend that everybody likes, and Owens is taking a shot at him. Those guys continually put on a clinic every week. So I mean, yeah, they are by far the most reliable part of Raw week in and week out now. Agreed,
totally agree. Jericho's list is by far one of the most over things that they do, and I truly enjoy.
I saw a version of it. You're on it.
Okay. Him and Owens, to go back to Owens, their facial expressions are everything. I mean, if you want to know why Owens and Jericho are so good, go back and look at Kevin Owens and Jericho's facial expressions when Steph is explaining what Jericho can do to earn his spot in Hell in a Cell with Owens and Rollins. Owens is like, man, if you don't get the fuck out of here, hell no, no, it's not happening. Jericho is sitting there with this shit-eating grin, and that's why these two are so good. Go back and watch that segment if you've got like Hulu or if you got it on a DVR. It just was great. It just was so great. Also,
it's attention to little details that mean a lot.
Well, because you watch them and you're like, these guys are so good. It's unreal when you watch it. Because I get tired of Stephanie McMahon with her promos, but see that's the thing. Like their facial expressions during that segment were so good, and the segment was so entertaining that I completely forgot I'm tired of seeing Stephanie McMahon out there. That's the part that I enjoyed the most. Did you catch?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was just going to say, I bet you they end up breaking up those two way too early.
They are going to. I'd like to see it continue, but you know what they're going to do. They're going to break it up early by definition of the fact they got too many hours of TV to fill in.
They probably got a pay-per-view this weekend too.
No, they don't. The last thing about that segment? Did you hear when Rollins said the word obsolete in the backstage interview with the new interview lady? You could hear the crowd chanting "delete, delete, delete."
That like shit's over, dude.
It's so over.
Did you see that at the next that boy? I hope they get there before they shut the company down too. That they're going to film an entire. I'm going to go back to TNA. They're going to film an entire episode of TNA out at the Hardy compound, and that King Maxwell's going to have a match.
Okay,
I saw that.
I'm not interested in seeing that, Doc. I'm sorry. Doesn't seem like something I'd want to see. So I don't know what to tell you. All right, we got a bunch of questions from Bryce, Rodney, and Tyrell. They want to know, how excited are you guys about the Goldberg and Brock match that is apparently on the horizon? Doc, I'm going to let you take this first.
If on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least excited, I'm a -3.
Hey, just so everyone knows, I don't give two shits about it. We got a part-time guy coming back with a...
old man.
I'm not going to go there. I have nothing against Goldberg.
Oh, I never liked him anyway. So you told I had him on my list a couple of weeks ago for that shit.
My problem with it does nothing for the current roster.
You people didn't like it when these two fought and Stone Cold was the referee. Why do you like it now?
Well, that's the thing. We've seen it already, and it wasn't very entertaining, was it?
Nope.
That was
both guys were on their way out and may or may not have phoned it in and.
So, I mean, there are some different circumstances now, though. I mean, we can agree to that. However, I tend to agree with you. I'm not looking forward. I'm not going to say negative, but I'm like a 2 or 3. If 10 is, great. If 10 is can't wait to see it, and 1 is I don't really care. I'm kind of like, I'm just like, meh, whatever. I mean, I'll watch it if it's on a pay-per-view, but if it doesn't make me go, oh, it's must-see TV.
Do you think Goldberg's coming back to lose?
That seems to be the track record when they bring in, because I still think he's a WCW guy, even though he worked for WWE or WWF, after they were bought. He was, let me say, he's not like Sting, where Sting never worked for the company up until last year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different. So, I don't think he wins. I think he loses. Here's another question. Does he only have 1 match? Is that his only match?
Since I don't care about him facing the other big dude in the promotion, I hope so. I don't like Goldberg, so I hope this is short.
Okay. Now, if you say so.
I take that back. You know who I hope he wrestles next? I hope they dust off Steven Regal and let him tie him up in a pretzel again.
I don't think that's going to happen, but anyway. Now, I will say this. The Heyman's a puppet master, though, because he can get people to actually want to see Goldberg and Lesnar. I mention that because, Goldberg is up 1 on Lesnar, and Heyman challenged Goldberg to a fight. So, Heyman is trying to talk him into the building, and I think he does. I think he does a decent job of that with the promo that he cut on Monday night, because he said in Suplex City, "You're not Goldberg, you're just next." So I don't know, man. I don't really care about the match, but if you're gonna have somebody to try to talk him into the building, like you always say, I think Heyman's a guy.
Oh, sure.
So the only other thing I have from Raw, the mixed tag match with Roman and Sasha and Charlotte and Rusev. I'm just tired of people booing Roman Reigns. The match was a little bit weird with Roman and Sasha because, Sasha's the face and Roman's just getting booed left and right, and they kept chanting, "We want Sasha" the whole time. I'm just sick of the Roman Reigns boos because I think Roman's a very talented guy. They pulled a fast one on us, though, in that match. I just knew when they booked it that the mixed tag with the two champs being Sasha and Roman, I thought one of them was going to get pinned. Did you think that was going to happen?
No.
You didn't? You didn't really care. You just were fast forwarding.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. So when Sasha made Charlotte tap, I was kind of in shock because I was waiting to see I just whatever. I just knew one of the champs were going to get pinned because that's what they do. But to segue into our next topic, guess what they did on SmackDown, Doc?
Well, I hope it's the part where they fucked up and pinned their champion, because I didn't see anything after that.
Well, I like James Ellsworth.
Hey, let me get it straight. Up until they had that guy Ellsworth pin AJ Styles, they were doing that match 100% awesome.
It was great.
And then they messed up and made AJ Styles look like a chump.
But that dude is so over because he looks goofy as fuck, and you know what? That's cool because it stands out. You can call it like hokey or it was cheesy, but Dean as the ref teaching Ellsworth how to properly do an arm drag was nice. The guy
I even popped when he answered his phone.
He answers the phone like Ellsworth is tapping from the calf submission. And
it was that spicy Latina girl out in the crowd he went to go check on. I would have gone and checked on her too.
Dude, it was dumb, but I love laughing at wrestling sometimes, so I give it big props. But they had it till the very end when they ruined it, when they let him pin him. And I understood, like, it wasn't that technically he didn't pin him because Dean was the one who, put the move on him and then threw Ellsworth on him. So technically, obviously, Ellsworth didn't do anything, but it's still the fact that you allowed your champion to get pinned.
You made your champion look like a jackass.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
And it was already stretching the lines of good taste to do the comedy, which we just put over. But then you took it the rest of the way.
Yeah, it was. It was funny, but that was the worst thing. Like the other thing that scared me. Did you see when Ellsworth took the Styles Clash? How he ducked his chin when you're supposed to on that move.
He don't even have a chin. He doesn't even have a chin.
Dude, it scared me for a second. I was like, oh.
That Styles Clash looks like it'd be. I mean, I don't take no bumps, but that doesn't look like a fun move to take, and it looks like a hard move to deliver.
I would not want to take it. It would scare me. It would definitely scare me. No doubt about it. I
mean, seriously, no, all shits aside, if AJ fought Lesnar and got him up in that move, how does he do that?
I don't know how he does. I don't think I'm willing to bet Lesnar says, "Fuck you, I'm not doing it."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so let's get into. We got a couple of things, but let's get into. I'm gonna say we got a couple of things I'm gonna say for next week because there's a question we got about Vince trying to buy up everyone, do the territories. This is one of the questions we got, and I'm gonna hold it over till next week. I'm gonna read it now, but we'll address it next week. What if Vince doesn't try to buy up everyone? Do the territories still fail? We're going to table that because there's a lot that I want to talk about related to that. And then we got a PW Torch talk that Herbie sent us, a longtime listener of ours, via email. He found it from July 13th of 1996. And then, so to tease you for next week, he says, I got a question. Would the NWO have been just as successful with Bret Hart as the third man? There's something I want to read from that article that I think you'd find interesting. But for now, let's get into our top 5 most deserving of the WWE Hall of Fame who are not in the Hall of Fame, was the way I kind of termed it. Now, Doc, I didn't talk about this with you, but I excluded current talent and part-time talent. Like the obvious people, like Undertaker, Kane, even that Paul Heyman, Daniel Bryant, who's recently retired, or like the Dudleys. I didn't include.
I kind of gave it the old NFL baseball rule that you need to be away from the promotion for 5 years.
Yes.
So I don't have anybody the same. I don't have anybody on the current roster or anything like that either.
Okay, cool. So we're pretty much on the same page. So let's kick things off.
And let me just say this: I didn't do any of this to spiff any of you Twitter parody accounts either. So my list is legit. If I'm a voter for the fucking WWE doesn't exist Hall of Fame because you can't go visit it, these are the 5 entities that I would put in there right now next year.
Okay, so who you got? Who's your number 5?
Well, hold on a second here. My number 5 is a guy. Let me pull this up. He is get my notes up, my research. He is a member of the WCW Hall of Fame.
WCW has a Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Class of 1995. Winner of numerous, countless regional titles. He was also inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2010. He's a member of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, class of 2002. He's also an ex-professional football player.
Mm-hmm.
And a man who Ric Flair once hit with a leg of a table that actually had a nail still in it, and they had to stop a match. I'm speaking of nobody other than number 5, Wahoo McDaniel.
That's a real good name.
A super tough ass. If you listen to the Ric Flair podcast, and I know you don't, he constantly puts Wahoo over as one of the toughest guys he was ever in the ring with. The story that Rick tells, although I think it might be a little embellished, is that they used to chant over the PA speaker in the late 60s when he played for the Jets, "Who made the tackle? Who? Wahoo," and the crowd would chant Wahoo, and they traded him so that he wouldn't be they wouldn't have anybody as popular as Wahoo on the team when Namath came along.
Wahoo McDaniel was a hell of a talent. He didn't make my list, but I will agree that it's a good number 5.
He fought with Piper, he fought with Flair, he fought with Sergeant Slaughter in the 80s, and he fought in the Carolinas and Florida and Georgia and all over the place. He was still wrestling against Manny Fernandez in the later 80s, early 90s in AWA. So, that's a guy right there that if you're going to talk about some of the lineage and the history and the and just badass dudes, men's men in the ring kind of guys, I think I'm going to start my list with Wahoo.
I didn't expect that, but I like that pick. That's a good number 5. Excellent number 5, actually.
Thank you.
My number 5, this won't shock you, is Jim Cornette. I don't understand how there is a WWE Hall of Fame without Jim. Actually, I do understand because Jim.
They ain't giving him a live mic at an induction ceremony for the first reason.
Can you imagine that?
I'd have to get the network for that shit.
You would. Some people don't like Cornette's political views. Some people don't like his religious views. Some people just hate him, for any number of reasons. I tend to not judge Cornette by Jim Cornette and I do not have the same religious views. Let me just say that. I think Jim's crazy. He doesn't believe in God. Whatever. That's Jim. But I don't judge Cornette.
That's okay. He thinks you're crazy for that same reason.
No, right, exactly. But I don't judge Cornette by those things. I judge Cornette by his abilities in the wrestling business. So when I put him in the Hall of Fame, I'm not putting him in for character reasons. Kind of like with an NFL player who does crazy things. He may still make the Hall of Fame. It's just you're judging his abilities on the field, not his ability to, Marshall Faulk, for example, one of the worst husbands. He's got 50 million kids, but he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. Whatever. So I judge Cornette on his abilities in the wrestling business. He's a hell of a manager, great wrestling mind, should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Here's the thing about Cornette. Unlike some people that aren't in the WWE Hall of Fame, and people say, well, that's because that person just didn't spend a lot of time or any time in the Fed. Like, people from the past, like, that may have made their name in the NWA and they're not in the WWE Hall of Fame because they just didn't spend time in the WWE. Cornette spent time with the company. So we can't use that excuse. He's just got Cornette just blasts him every chance he gets to this day, and that's why he's not in. So anyway, I had number 5 of Cornette. Now I'll leave it at that. I don't know if you've got Cornette listed, but I will keep moving at this point. Number 4, I actually wrote down, again, and these aren't just wrestlers, as you can tell, this because Cornette was a manager. I wrote down Jim Crockett Sr. For those who don't know, Jim Crockett Sr. is the man who should be credited for what became the NWA and what eventually became WCW. I won't go into how it all developed, but I could make an argument that the biggest boom in wrestling history with the Monday Night Wars does not happen if there's not a Jim Crockett Promotions in their humble beginnings. In short, if you don't have Jim Crockett Sr., you don't end up with the NWA. You then don't end up with a WCW, which then goes head-to-head with the WWF at the time in the Monday Night Wars. Jim Crockett Promotions helped with forming the NWA, and that is why I include Jim Crockett Sr. as number 4. Doc, do you got anything to add, or maybe you add something later related to that?
Is Jim Barnett in as well?
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just thinking that if you're going to go Crockett, which is probably true, the problem with it is that Vince is never going to put those dudes in. But yeah, I get it.
Oh hell no. Well, I don't know. He put in Vern. Vern got in.
True.
Which is even crazier because the AWA was very successful. I can't say they weren't as successful with the.
But the difference is that Vern was a technical wrestler, and he was out west. Right?
Well, yeah,
the North and the West.
Yeah,
Vince hates the South.
But still, they
wrestling.
Yeah, but still, man, the heat that him and Vern had.
True.
I mean, because Vince. Look, man, let's just say it. Vince fucked Vern royally. So, I mean, I can see your point, but there could have been an argument that he would have never got in.
I mean, Crockett Promotions in that Mid-Atlantic, that's some hot shit going all the way back. So
hell yeah. You can't deny it. You cannot deny it. Who did you have at number 4?
Well, my number 4 was the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette.
So you got them as a group, which you can do because, you know, the Four Horsemen. Yeah, okay, I got you. I never saw it like that, but that's fine. I
think it's the avenue to get the Midnight Express in, which would be hard to do without Cornette because they weren't big talkers. They're not gonna ever give Bobby Eaton a live mic at an induction ceremony either, for opposite reasons of Cornette. And it also spreads out so that Cornette's not the only one going in by himself. So it's kind of their way of giving him the spiff without having to give him the whole enchilada. And I just think that if we're going to be honest about, you know, guys getting the most out of their size and ability in that time frame, the Midnight Express and Corny drew a shit ton of money, and not being in the main event.
Can you imagine Cornette on the mic? Can you imagine that?
There would probably be some real worked out parameters that, okay, we're not going to tell, because they couldn't just go, here's your script, because it did fuck you. But there'd probably be some parameters worked out where he would agree not to shit can Russo or, you know, that kind of stuff.
What if he just went rogue and just was like, fuck it?
They'd cut his mic.
They would, but I mean, he'd get a few off before they cut it.
Oh, absolutely. You wanted to know about Vince McMahon's anti-bullying campaign?
Right, exactly. Doofus son-in-law.
There goes the mic. But right. Yeah, I absolutely believe that Vince doesn't like tag team wrestling, so it's going to be a hard one to get in. But the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette certainly deserve it.
Yeah, most definitely.
You can bring in, you bring in Condrey if he'll come. You can bring in Randy Rose from even back before that. But then you bring in Eaton and Stan Lane and then Corny and get a big group up there, so it doesn't just look like Corny up there by himself.
Yeah, I can see that. So who did you have at number 3 then?
Well, my number 3. If you're going to have a guy die in your ring, the least you can do is put him in the fucking Hall of Fame.
Oh, I know you were going to go there.
My number 3 is Owen Hart. And to be honest, I really don't know what they've been waiting for. He was popular in the locker room.
He was a prankster, too.
A prankster, but, I mean, you know, I forget who it was, but after he died, they did the Raw where they just kind of did all kinds of, you know, the wrestlers telling stories and different things. And somebody said in the back, you know, it's hard. You'd be hard pressed to find a Raw about anybody, whether they died or not, that nobody has at least one bad thing to say except for Owen Hart. He was super talented as a wrestler. He had charisma. He carried those damn slammies out all the time. That shit was funny. He was the damn Blue Blazer. You know, and part of the repairing of the bridge between the Hart family and the WWE, I'm just really surprised he hasn't gone in.
Yeah, especially now. But I mean, if you listen to Brett talk about it too, Brett talks about how the wife still won't let them use, like when they were making the DVD or whatever. There's things that she wouldn't let allowed in or something. I can't remember. But Brett was saying how if they couldn't do it the way they wanted it,
Brett also said that the Fabulous Freebird shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and it's an embarrassment. So let's not take everything he says all the way right now.
Well, from what I understand too, now he's going back again on that. Did you hear that one?
No.
Yeah, Brett. Now he's like, you know, I think I read a headline that he's like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have, you know, been so hard on him and mentioned it the way I did, because he pretty much was like, yeah. You know, but the thing was, like, I didn't think about this. You know, back then, man, wrestlers didn't really, and we'll get sidetracked, but wrestlers didn't watch other territories. Brett wouldn't have had any clue what was going on down in World Class at that point in time. He wouldn't have had a clue. His thing was Stampede, and his thing was the WWF at that point, if you really think about it. So anyway, I didn't want to get sidetracked, and I'm not taking up for Brett, because it's, for him to say that was crazy. Now, he did say some true things too. They were a bunch of drunks.
Well, yeah.
but that goes for a lot of wrestlers back then.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I agree.
Yeah, I got Owen Hart in the number 3 slot. I think he deserves to be immortalized in the Hall of Fame.
I can't knock that. He's not on my list, but I definitely could see that. My number 3 is Kamala. I think to this very day, Kamala is underappreciated. Kamala, for you and I, when we were younger, was as scary of a heel as there was.
I was convinced he was going to find out where I lived and come eat me because he was the Ugandan cannibal.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the note that I have is you could not convince me that Kamala was not going to go bite someone's head off. You know, he was scary, and my young eyes believed it. Like, I thought that this dude was from the Ugandan jungle. And
they cut that. Jerry Jarrett cut that video where he's running in the field, and that shit was Eastern Tennessee, but I thought it was the
jungles of Africa,
the savannah of Uganda.
Right. I noticed Kamala, as I got older, didn't get the credit he deserved. It's a sad story. I mean, you think about the battles he did with, like, Hogan, and putting Hogan over, and, you know, even in World Class, and how great he was. He just didn't get the credit. It's a sad story today with him in a wheelchair. You know, from what I know, he's now part of the lawsuit against the WWE as of July 2016. There was an article I read on Bleacher Report back in 2014 where Kamala says he lives on a disability check, and he sells handmade wooden chairs in his book as is basically his income, the book that he wrote. One of the best Kamala stories that both of us always reference from time to time when talking to each other, I don't know if we do it on a podcast, is Kamala telling the story of Jerry Lawler when Jerry discovered him, and, you know, he brought in James, and James was in the back one night, and they were putting the Kamala gimmick on him, and over time, you know, Kamala's painting the moon that he's famous for on his stomach. And he says one night he looks down at Jerry as Jerry's painting the moon on his stomach, and Jerry Lawler says it exactly like this. He goes, Kamala said, "Jerry, why you always paint that banana on my stomach?" One of the best stories you ever hear about Kamala. And Jerry Lawler went on to say how nice of a guy that Kamala was. He was just one of those guys that was extremely nice, friendly, you know, a guy that you'd want to be around.
And if they put in Kamala, maybe it would gain some exposure to his plight, and we could get some help for the man.
I agree. 100%, man. It's a shame that the man is not in the Hall of Fame at this point. So that Kamala was my number 2. My number 3. My number 2, and I don't have a lot to say about this, but Rick Rude, it shocked me when I was doing my research on this that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Rick Rude could draw money no matter what territory or organization he was in, but he's not.
And he had that younger version of Magnum P.I., Tom Selleck, going back in the 80s when that was a thing, and
right.
that mustache, and he was built like a brick shit out, just cut. Yeah.
Dude was unreal, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. I don't get it.
He had that one where he had Jake the Snake's wife on his pants, and like he was dancing around, and her face was like, oh man, that was some real shit right there.
Rude was unreal. Rude should be in there. Why he's not? You know, I know they sometimes don't want too many, I guess, deceased wrestlers going in.
Well, he also swerved him and ended up on
That's true too.
Nitro.
Yeah, but you know what? See, that didn't even get me, because think of all the people Vince has forgiven.
True.
Yeah, so it's like
Warriors in there.
And think about all the shit he caused.
Yeah.
Who's your number 2, Doc?
I like Rick Rude. I like that pick. He's sitting outside the top 5 on mine. He was definitely listed. Number 2, I got Bruiser Brody.
Wow.
We talk about Bruiser a lot on these lists. He makes a lot of appearances. If you are a relatively young fan or you're unfamiliar with the work of Bruiser Brody, I strongly encourage you to try to find some on YouTube or the network or wherever you procure your wrestling, and you will find a guy who brings as much chaos and unpredictability to the ring as almost humanly possible, and only probably superseded as when he's tangling with Abdullah the Butcher at the same time. Bruiser was a guy who brought just controlled chaos and drew money in Japan. He was a star wherever he went. He actually had a cup of coffee in the 70s up in the WWF. But never, you know, the one of the big what ifs for wrestling is that when the territories died, if he'd have lived, would he have been able to play ball and get that big money run in the WWF? And we'll never know.
James Beard, who knew Bruiser, when I was talking to him a few months back on the show, James Beard said he would have. James, the Bruiser he knows, James said that he would have been able to play ball with Vince. He said it had been some give and take, but he would have played ball. Now, we don't know how long he would have played ball, but he believes Bruiser would have played ball with Vince.
I think that Vince would have been smart enough to get the money right, and then, you know, there you go.
Yeah, I agree too.
But he was a star wherever he went. He was a master of his own destiny wherever he went. The stories are probably, you know, some of the stories about him being difficult to work with are probably very true. Although a guy like Ric Flair says, hey, I'd go an hour with him in St. Louis and it was no big deal. And
sure does.
You know, so, you know, there's probably some guys that have an axe to grind with Bruiser that you know, probably, you know, okay. But you got to wonder what they did to deserve it.
Well, Flair says that, but at the same time, you know, I talked to a guy like James Beard who knew Bruiser and managed many of his matches, and James would sit there and tell you he was intense, but he wasn't reckless. He wasn't out there there's a difference between being intense and reckless. And reckless is he just doesn't care about doing you harm.
Well, and the thing of it is that, okay, so let's dissect that for a second. St. Louis was well known as a town that was a good and generous and fair payoff out of Mushnick. So why would Brody go in there and do something stupid and jeopardize that? Because he was already fighting the world champion, which was an extra set of money.
Right.
Why would you do something dumb? He was a businessman.
Right. I'm in agreement 100% at that point with that. Yeah.
So.
All right. So I can't disagree with that pick. before you get into your number one, Doc, I did want to say one thing about the show. If you are a first-time listener, subscribe to us however you get your podcast, whether it's iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, or TuneIn Radio. Please subscribe to us and enjoy our shows. We got this show that drops every single Thursday night. We also got the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Podcast review shows that drop every Sunday night at this point as we record this on October the 13th, 2016. Please, we could use all of the 5-star reviews we can on iTunes or Stitcher. So please write us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate it. Those who have already written them, thank you very much, man. It means the world to us that you've done so. Follow us on Twitter. We're at BTT_podcast. I am at Mike504Saints. We'd appreciate the follows on Twitter. And then a couple of plugs on how you can best support the show. One, we have an Amazon referral link. You can use that link if you don't want to donate to us or you don't want to purchase a Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirt of ours. Use our Amazon referral link. You can find it at mikemills.podbean.com. It's at the very top of the page. Click on it, and whatever you buy from Amazon, there's a little bit that we get in return. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's a way for you to support our show, and we'd appreciate if you would do that. The other way you could support the show is via our PayPal donation link. Again, you can actually find that along with the Amazon link in the show notes of this show that you're listening to. So however you're listening to this show, if you look at the show notes section, there's a link there there's the Amazon link and the PayPal link. And then our Pro Wrestling Tee store, couple of ways. One is go to mikemills.podbean.com. It's there, the Pro Wrestling Tee store. Or if you go to facebook.com/bookingtheterritory, if you click the Shop Now button, it's there, and it's also in the show notes as well. The Pro Wrestling Tee store, we got a couple of designs, 2 Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast Tee actual designs, and then one of the designs, the third design, is our Smoky Mountain Wrestling Podcast T-shirt. All right, Doc, so that is a couple of plugs I wanted to get out the way before you kick over to your number one. So who was your number one?
Well, I made a statement at the beginning that this is truly indicative of who I believe should be in the Hall of Fame. The most glaring omission. If it's got a hole that's going to be serviced by the Rock and Roll, I think the Rock and Roll Express need to get into the WWE, WWF Hall of Fame. I think you can go back to any tape you can find in about a probably 5 to 6 year period, where if you have them come into the ring, you will hear a monstrous roar, the high-pitched squeal of females. These dudes were the classic embodiment of over for a long stretch of time. And furthermore, from just a textbook clinical standpoint, when you have a guy, I mean, when one of your teammates is the Ricky Morton role or doing the Ricky Morton, that right there says that you've made a big enough mark on this business that you deserve to go in a Hall of Fame. And so any tag team out there knows what I mean when I say that. So that right there says that you've done enough to be a singular enough talent to get your point across about how to do something the right way. I think they have largely their only dalliances really in the WWF were some ill-fated shots where they were doing some NWA stuff in the late 90s, and then they did a match with the Heavenly Bodies under Smoky Mountain that didn't go over well because, well, I wouldn't expect a WWF crowd to really get into Smoky Mountain, but that's a different story for a different time. But anyway, Rock and Roll Express, we've been doing the Smoky Mountain tour lately. We're not there yet where they're back together. Spoiler alert. But it just reminds me of how over they were, how good they were, and really just an amazingly awesome tag team that deserves, more than any other that I can think of to be in the Hall of Fame.
They deserve it. They're not in my top 5, but that's only because you can only give 5. However, I agree they should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's a shame that they're not. There's more than a shame that. It's a shame that those guys didn't make more money either in their careers. When you hear Ricky Morton say he only had 1 year where he made 6 figures, that's criminal. When you think of the money
That's how much you're pulling in every couple of months off this fucking podcast, and you won't even share the money with Harper and I. You're out earning Ricky Morton. You ought to send him a check.
Okay.
So my so to recap, I had Wahoo at 5, Midnight Express with Corny at 4, Owen Hart at 3, Bruiser Brody at 2, and the Rock and Roll Servicing the Rats at number 1.
All right. Very good list, man. I can't knock any of them. There's times when I knock people that you have on your list, but I definitely can't do it on this one.
Hell, and let me tell you something. This is how bullshit this Hall of Fame is. I got another 5 behind it that should go in, and a couple more after that.
Okay, so hold on. We're gonna talk. We're gonna list those in a second. My number 1 is someone you had on your list actually a second ago, and that was Bruiser Brody. Brody's a legend. I don't know how he's not been recognized at this point in the WWE Hall of Fame. Again, kind of like what I was mentioning with Cornette, there's people, whereas Cornette spent time in the WWE, there are people who did not spend a significant amount of time or any time in the WWE. So since they didn't spend a fair share of their career there, they are not inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. I also think one of the things that works against Brody is the same thing that works against Rick Rude, and that is the fact that Brody is not alive right now, and it seems like with the WWE, when it comes to their induction ceremonies, they want to have people who are they only want to induct one person who's deceased yearly, it seems. Now, I think it's a joke, and I didn't mention this with the other people that I have in my 5, but I think it's a joke for everyone I have in my list of top 5 that there are people like Mr. T, Pete Rose, Donald Trump, Drew Carey, and Snoop fucking Dogg in the goddamn Hall of Fame, but we can't get Brody in. Now,
you know what all those people need? A power bomb off the stage from Kevin Owens. That's
True.
all they need, not to be in a Hall of Fame.
Right, exactly. I know, and I know. Because I know I'm going to hear this, I know that's a celebrity wing, which is a bunch of horse shit in itself, but still, you don't see the NFL have a Hall of Fame with a celebrity wing.
I'd be in it.
You know, where people like Trump or Mr. T or Pete Rose are in.
Hell, Donald Trump at least deserves to be in the Football Hall of Fame more than the Wrestling Hall of Fame. He owned a fucking football team in a rival league at one point.
That's true. The General. So... yeah, and that's the thing, so we got legit people like Brody and Rick Rude and Kamala and Jim Crockett Sr. didn't go to, he was a promoter, but you got these people who were, brawlers and fighters in this industry, and they're not in the Hall of Fame, but we got guys like Trump and Pete Rose and Mr. T. Well, Mr. T is a little different, but, because he actually had a match. Pete Rose, Donald Trump, Drew Carey, and Snoop Dogg in the Hall of Fame. It's bullshit, and like Cornette always says, hokey horse shit, whatever. That's the type of thing that makes me mad related to this Hall of Fame. And like you said, I can name off a ton more. So let me tell you my honorable mentions, and then you throw yours at me. So I had Ray Stevens.
I had Ray Stevens.
I had the Midnight Express. I had the Rock and Roll Express as my honorable mention. I had the One Man Gang. I think he's cheated just as much as Kamala. Actually, it worked against him that I've actually talked to him and know him, that the only reason I didn't put him in my top 5 is because I thought people would go, oh, well, you just saying that because of the gang, and, you've interviewed him and you knew him and got to work with him. No, that's not it.
I would have said that.
Of course you would have. Kevin Sullivan should be in. China should be in. She's going to get in now that she died, and they're going to grandstand over her death, but she should have been in prior to that. Brooklyn Brawler, I give him credit. He should be in. I think Vader should be in. And lastly, he hadn't been retired for 5 years, but I think Kurt Angle should go in. It just, there's a ton of people that those are my honorable mentions, man. Who did you have?
Dick the Bruiser.
There you go. That's a good one.
Giant Baba.
There you go.
Misawa. Gary Hart.
Gary Hart is a good one.
Danny Hodge.
Hart's a great one now that I think about it. Danny Hodge, yeah.
I'm going to say I got 2 left. Rick Martel.
Okay, I can see that.
And this one I want Now, he should get in on skills alone.
Oh, this is going to scare me. That's some bullshit, but go ahead.
No, it's really not. But I just don't know that just tell me for all the reasons you think this would not go over well. And he's dead now, but his induction speech wouldn't have gone over well in a corporate environment. I'm talking about Dick Murdoch.
Oh, I think that would be awesome, but if he was alive to give that speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. That would be great, but it wouldn't go over well if he was alive in a corporate environment.
Well, there were rumors that he was allegedly involved with the KKK, and he was also famous as I guess you could say, and I don't say this too besmirchingly because, pot kettle, but he was a binge drinker. So, I mean, and he was probably the furthest from politically correct, and, if Dick Slater was in attendance, they probably got each other real drunk before the speech, so,
Yeah, I've heard some good stories from Rod Price about Dick Murdoch. God, that guy. I was asking Rod one time, man, what was it like to work with Dick Murdoch and travel with Dick Murdoch? Brother, only the strong survive. I was like, what the hell does that mean? He's like, brother. I was like, Rod, man, I wasn't really much of a drinker. I mean, I drink, man, but I wasn't much of a drinker. Brother, Dickie would have ate you alive. Dick Murdoch, yeah, good old Dick, Captain Red.
See, there's just a lot. When you first let me know this is what our category was going to be, and then you told me who sent it in, and I just couldn't stop vomiting because it was blowing him all the time. I thought, man, this is going to be hard, and it really wasn't because they've left out because we probably left out some people that deserve to go in there.
Well, hell yeah, we did.
It's just because another example of the WWE not doing stuff right, and so we have to come along and help them and clean it all up. And I'm glad we were able to do that for you fans this week.
Here's the thing. I don't want to throw no shade at Coco Beware because I think I like Coco in Mid-South, and I know he did some stuff in Memphis too, and Coco's a real talented guy. But the thing is, and I'm not saying Coco doesn't deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. My point is, Coco's in, but we got guys like Bruiser Brody who's not. We got a Rick Rude who's not. We got a Kamala who's not. I mean, so when you think about and see that's the knock on the WWE Hall of Fame. That's not a knock on Coco. That's a knock on the actual Hall of Fame and who they put in. But I've heard certain people say it's not a real Hall of Fame, which it's not because they put in who they want. And again, they got this stupid fucking celebrity wing. It's just dumb. So anyway, that's this week's top 5. So send us in some names if we miss some that you'd like. Doc, before we get out of here, we got 2 things. One, we got our conversation with Vinny Marseglia, current ROH star and member of the Kingdom. And also we got the promo of the week this week was Paul Heyman's quote-unquote shoot promo at ECW One Night Stand 2005. So I've loaded that at the end of the show for everyone to enjoy. I did want to mention one thing because we kind of skipped over it. So the whole Paige situation, I didn't mention it, but I thought it was funny. So Paige torched the WWE through her tweets this week, and the first one said, she sent out 2. One of them said, same shit, different day. Kids, please don't get prescriptions or doctor's notes. It's not acceptable. And then the second tweet said, rules apply depending on your status. I'd say Paige may be on her way out, but I guess more is to come, Doc.
Well, and now the WWE is saying that they don't think she needs surgery, so that'll be another wrinkle there. She might wanted to get that cleaned up before she shot her mouth off, but I can understand. There's going to be different rules for different players out there.
I agree. All right, everybody. I want to say thanks.
Hold on. I got one thing we need to mention here, and it's non-wrestling related, but goddamn it was close. We had a death in the entertainment world this week. You remember the show Martin?
Oh, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy from Martin died, and about a little over a year ago, I was at a dinner with the man.
I thought about that when I heard about it that he passed away.
And I met Tom. I talked to Tommy for a little bit, and let me tell you this: Tommy was a big dude, but I don't think he ever took any flatback bumps. But that motherfucker was a worker's worker. I heard him talk for about an hour. He gave a talk, and he was a true worker. I was like, damn, this is a carny motherfucker right here. So rest in peace, Tommy, and condolences out to the family. And yeah, I just wanted to say, man, I remember sitting there thinking, if this guy ever loses his gig, what he's doing, man, he'd be a hell of a promo cutter on Monday Night Raw.
So I remember this discussion where Tommy was working the Sunday church collection plate at this function that you were at where you met Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was working.
52 years old. That's too young. That's too young.
Yeah, that is way too young. Thank you to our sponsors, the Wrestling Palace, located in Traders Village. For those of you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they're your one-stop shop for your wrestling memorabilia needs, and I mean it. Arturo has everything, so give him a call at 469-337-8537. I'm serious. Call him and say, if there's something you want, he can get it if he doesn't already have it, and he can get it at a really good price.
Can he get me the true identity of Yomamba the Jungle Savage?
I said wrestling memorabilia. He cannot get you the identity of that. And I also want to say thank you to the shout out to the King of the Mountain podcast, our Impact Wrestling Review friends that do the weekly Impact Wrestling reviews. They got Marche Rocket, who we've had on, coming up in the next week, I believe, on their show. So they landed Marche, and they're going to be interviewing him. And shout out to the 605 Super Podcast, our friend, the great Brian Last, for everything that he does over there. It's a great show, rather long show, but classic wrestling. If classic wrestling is your thing, the 605 Super Podcast, you will enjoy. He's got a bunch of.
And go check out last week's episode if you want to hear him cut a shit hot promo on JR.
Holy shit, he torched JR. Oh, and we talk about Jim Ross, everyone. And you know what? I agree with him. I'm going to go out. I'm going to just say it. I agree with him. You sound like you're going to back out, though.
I don't.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm just going to, let you guys handle it. Y'all are the real talent here.
You're fucking pussy is what you are. Lastly, before we get out of here, shout out to the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing. Thank you for always mentioning us each and every week on your show. You guys are great. You're doing a good job as you build your new audience, or you build your audience. It's a good show, man. I've enjoyed, and I may be on there this coming week. I have to see. We've been talking, so we will.
They need some listeners run off?
Not quite. Doc, man, you got anything else before we get out of here today, man?
God almighty, we've been going. These people have gotten this much out of me for free tonight. Let's cut it. I agree. All right, y'all know how it goes. So we got Vinny Marseglia coming up in a second. And we always say before we get out of here, book it.
Okay, everyone, like I was telling you at the beginning of the show this week, we brought on a past guest of ours, someone who I had a lot of fun talking to the first time around. So I said, hey, man, I got to bring him back on. And actually, if you were to go back and listen to the first time we had on Vinny Marseglia on the show, you would have heard me say that, hey, man, come October, when it gets time closer to Halloween, I was going to bring Vinny back on the show. So here we are. We're recording this on October the 11th, 2016. I want to welcome back Vinny Marseglia, who's from a small town in Warwick, Rhode Island, trained by Spike Dudley, Mike Bennett, and Ryan Drew. He's done, well, we'll talk about a few other things with Ring of Honor, but he's worked with Ring of Honor, Chikara, Dragon Gate, and all other reputable promotions up in the Northeast. And, hey, Vinny, man, what's going on, man? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back on, and thank you for not butchering my name right away. You kind of remembered that, so I appreciate that. You're one of the first and only few that don't ask me a million times how to pronounce my name. So you must have went to school and did well in English, so congratulations.
It's not that hard to say, actually. Like, you told me one time, and I was like, all right, that's pretty easy to make.
Right, yeah. Right. And then when you look at it, it's pretty simple. But,
yeah,
everything's going good, man. That's my daughter screaming in the back, so don't mind that. But
I know the feeling.
She's along for the ride all the time. So, but yeah, everything's going great, man, right now. So I'm looking forward to the second part of the interview. And like you said, you caught me at the right time, being in October. So
yeah. Yeah, man, I know we're going to get into that. I know you're a big horror movie buff, and we kind of hinted towards that the first time you were on back in March of 2016. But tell the people, we spent a lot of time, you and I, talking about the, I guess, beginnings of your career in professional wrestling, and things have picked up recently for you. I'm going to direct people back to that if they want to hear more about the beginning of your career, if they'd like. It's back in March, and all of our episodes are still up on iTunes and everywhere else. But give us kind of, I guess, the Cliff Notes version, Vinny, of your start in professional wrestling, and as best you can, because I know in talking to you, it was a pretty long, not long, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was a pretty nice journey that you had. So there was a lot of stops along the way to where you are now.
Yeah, it's definitely like it was a struggle, just like anybody else's journey that's actually trying to put, make this a living for them, or who are serious about it. But I started, wrestling around in BFW halls and whatnot, semi-trained, and then I met Spike Dudley and Ryan Drew, who was Spike's assistant at the time, like I'd said in the previous interview, and they would actually see me at one of those VFW shows and just pretty much pointed out that I had a lot more potential than what I was doing, and that they kind of wanted to break me down and build me back up and teach me the correct way, or tell me what I'm doing rather wrong, because wrestling's an art, and there's really no right way, I guess you could say. Like Spike and Ryan's thing was always, I can't tell you what's right, but I can show you what's wrong.
Yeah.
So, because there's a million different versions of everybody's training out there, you know what I mean? And wrestling's, it's entertainment, so you can just about do anything. So it's basically to just strip me down, build me back up with all the basics and whatnot for pro wrestling, so that I can, take those tools and move forward with it, which was at the Lockup Academy in Fall River, Massachusetts. So then from there on out, I trained for every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for I'd say 4 to 6 hours at a time. And it was good though, because we had a lot of the guys like myself, Bennett, Matt Taven, Matt Magnum, who's no longer wrestling anymore, but he was also a very talented guy. We all were able to, the good thing about it is when we were training together with each other, everybody had potential to do something in wrestling, according to Spike. So he was able to focus on all of us at once. So it's like everybody had this athletic potential together. So it helped us out to get better. You know what I mean? Because there's other people to work with that could, where we could better ourselves and, try new things, whatever it may be. And then I kept training and getting out there in different shows and wrestling people better than me to help me and help me grow in pro wrestling, which I'm trying to do now with some younger guys, because, it's tough. Wrestling's tough. And it's nice to see people succeed that really, really try and really take it serious, and have a love for it. So that's kind of like that was like my kickstart to wrestling. And then, opportunities presented itself for me going to Ring of Honor tryouts and seminars, getting myself in front of them. And even that was, a lot of work. The work never stops. You know what I mean? It never, ever, 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 ever stops until you decide, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, period. So it's always like you're looking to progress. You're looking to always get better. It's competition with yourself, which is you're always out to, try different things to make yourself a better performer, entertainer.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It is, and you've done just that. You've had a long, I don't say long journey, but you paid your dues, I guess is the proper way to put it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, you've told me we're gonna get into it in a minute. I remember the first time we talked. You were talking about the times where you worked the Ring of Honor TV and you worked with Rhino, and it was like a 30-something second match. So
it was 30 seconds.
30 was it? Yeah.
Well, those are the opportunities. Yeah. Those are the opportunities that people kind of like. They're doing a little something on the independent scene, and like they go to try out. They're like, yeah, we like you, whatever. they get an opportunity, all of a sudden you find out it's like 30 seconds, and you're just getting murdered by somebody. And then there's people that are just kind of like, on what? Blah, blah, blah. It's just like, for me, when they told me that, I was just like, hell yeah, let's do it. I'm going to make this the best gore that you could ever see.
Right.
And then after that, they used that on the television opener for a few years after that, because my job was to go out there and make the gore look as best as I possibly could.
I remember you saying that.
So,
I remember you saying that it was one of the funniest.
Right. And then that was the point of it, and I did that. So, people need to realize that, you got to get out of your own head if you are, because you're not a superstar in a VFW hall. So.
Yeah, no doubt. So you've had, like you said, I remember you telling me the story. You went to the Ring of Honor tryout camp, and you had you had the match with Rhino, and then I think you had another match with Ring of Honor too after that. Am I right?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of different stuff with Ring of Honor, like before I was doing what I'm doing now. But I did the Rhino thing. I've also got to work like a Four Corners contract match on an iPay-per-view in my hometown in Rhode Island in 2012. I got to work with Davey Richards on Ring of Honor television, Tommaso Ciampa on Ring of Honor. I did another four-way in my hometown for like number one contender for a television title spot. So I've done some things with them over the last few years. But it's just about trying to stay consistent. It really comes down to eventually just kind of growing up and finding who you are, finding yourself. You go through a bunch of different looks, phases, changes, whether it's your body, whatever it is. You eventually something just kind of clicks, and you get comfortable. And right now, I'm the most comfortable I've ever been in wrestling.
Yeah, and you do have a great look. So we go into Ring of Honor this year. Man, I'll never forget. I'm on Twitter one day, and I see the tweet from Ring of Honor. Local, I forgot the title of it, but it was like local star, local hero.
Yeah, they did it. They did it like a local. They worded it as like a local underdog championship challenge.
Right.
So
right.
it was that. Yeah, with the world title with myself versus Jay Lethal. Which Jay Lethal is one of the best in the world that you know what I mean. Period. And absolutely one of the best I've been in the ring with so far, which is why he was a world champion, so understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But the match was, it was great. I personally think I could have done a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
You can always do better, actually. So I shouldn't even say a little bit. I always want to try to outdo myself. But it was great. It was fine. But I think just a few things I would have maybe changed on myself, on my own part. But other than that, like it was fantastic. It was a great time.
Is there? Can you watch it anywhere? That match? Is it on video anywhere?
They have it on DVD.
Okay.
They have it on DVD.
Okay.
They do. They have it available actually on the website on DVD.
Okay.
I just got my copy actually this 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
In Lowell, so they do have it available on DVD.
All right, I was just curious. I paid attention like on Twitter the night you got to work them and stuff, and I saw pictures of it.
Show too. Yeah, it was great. It was great match, great show. Just a great opportunity, It's a crazy, like I was talking about my like earlier journey to get to opportunities like that, and like to stand in the ring and look down and see like the ref hold over the Ring of Honor world title, and you think of the guys that have held that over the years, and you're just like, wow, I'm in this match right now. It's kind of crazy, but it was cool. It was a cool experience.
The first thing that came to my mind when I saw the announcement for it was, everything you told me about your journey. Because I mean, again, I'll reference it again when we talked in March on the show. That was one of the things you had. I just remember you talking about, everything you'd been through and everything you'd worked on and how long you had worked at it. And then, to hear that from a guy who's worked hard, and then for you to get that opportunity to see, I don't know, man. It just, I know you and I had never met in person or anything, but, I just, that to know that you had that long journey and then to end up in that match against Jay Lethal, it's just I'm sure you looked at it that night afterwards and like, man, did that really just happen? I mean,
Yeah, right,
at some
yeah,
point you got to take
yeah,
it in, right? You got to really. I mean,
right.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, absolutely, yeah, because you're working for goals like that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's the whole thing. So, absolutely, when you're just like, wow, that was pretty cool, and which makes you continue to keep going and try to go further. So
right.
that's you always have those moments that kind of keep you kind of motivated, and you have the other moments when you're just like, this is miserable, but you just kind of have to work through all of them, to get
Yeah,
to the next level you're looking for.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
always try to set small goals for myself. I had one goal to move on. I did it. I had one goal to be on television. I did it. I had one goal to become a member of the Ring of Honor roster. I did it. So
Yeah.
I'm always setting like small goals in my own head. Even if I don't tell anybody about them, they're still in my head. That's, you just try to make small goals as you go on.
Oh yeah, I agree. You gotta have it in your. I'm a big fan of that actually. When you set goals for yourself, you don't have to tell
Yeah.
everybody that. It's not everybody's business what
Right.
your particular
Right.
personal goals are. But in your mind, you're thinking, this is what I want to achieve, and it's not for anybody else to know because you're battling yourself more than anything. I mean, you're not battling anybody else
Right.
most of the time. So
Exactly.
no, that's cool. So let me ask this, man. I actually went back and listened because it had been so long since we talked. I said, man, I want to listen to Vinny and I's discussion again. And you specifically said at one point in that discussion, I'm working on some big things this year, and so there's some big things are in the works that I'm really hoping come through. So I'll ask this: was one of those things that you had an inkling of an idea at that point in time about the whole Jay Lethal match, maybe, or was it
Mm,
something else that you were saying that to? Curious. I'm just curious.
Um, it was more. I kind of like I found myself. Last time we talked, I was kind of like venturing still to find. Did we talk about Ink Sanity, my Ink Sanity brand, the last
Yeah,
time we talked?
we had a
Okay,
long
so
talk
like,
about that actually. We did.
right. So yeah, so like that was kind of like what I was talking about, and I finally, uh, I just felt like, okay, this is gonna go somewhere. This is gonna go somewhere. So it was mainly just really for myself, not really necessarily like the Jay Lethal match, or I just felt for myself. I was like, this is it. This is who I am. This is the shtick I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There's no questioning it. This is it. So like, I kind of felt like from there on out, once I created that stuff was gonna pick up naturally because I was being just my natural self.
Right.
But then stuff just started falling into place rapidly. And I had the Ring of Honor World Title match, and then now I'm part of the Kingdom in Ring of Honor, and there's nothing cooler than that because I'm, Matt Taven, Michael Bennett and Maria Kanellis have been my close friends in wrestling for as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were together too, I would travel with them and whatever, so it's just kind of like it worked out in a very natural chemistry, so to speak. And then also TK O'Ryan, that's with us as well, who's
Mm-hmm.
the third member in the Kingdom. He had trained with from Spike School as well. And he Ryan Drew was working with him, and Ryan Drew kind of introduced him to myself, and which I introduced him to Taven. And TKO, he's fairly new. He's 2 years in, but he's very, very talented.
Wow.
Especially in the early stage of his career, very talented. He's a former Division I baseball player. He's 6'3", so he's got all he needs.
Yeah.
For wrestling. He's got a very, very, very powerful personality in the ring too, so which is huge. So he's kind of like the guy that we were like, well, this guy's just like us.
I hate to jump in real quick with my discussion with Vinny, but there was a bit of technical difficulties on our end with the Skype connection, and it was the sound quality basically went out for a few minutes. So it's going to sound a little choppy what you just heard versus where we pick back up as Vinny continues his discussion with me. So my apologies, but it's something that I did not realize until we were done recording, and it was a Skype issue. So enjoy the rest of the interview at this point. Vinny is a part of the kingdom and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, man. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't want to give anything away at this point because this will air.
Right.
I just know
man,
that
it's
you
cool.
guys look great, man. That was good. That was good stuff.
Yeah, and it was kind of like it happened at the right time because like I have a wife and a kid, and like we have a home, so it's like it's a struggle, when you're in that position in your life. So it's kind of like, like how long, am I gonna, do this independent wrestling thing for? You know what I mean? Like, is anything gonna like excel or like, am I gonna keep moving forward? And I put in my mind, I guess I am. I'm gonna work hard and do this. But at the same time, you have a family to support, so you gotta worry about that too. So it's very frustrating. So I put in all the work, and that was it. It has nothing to do with other than like, it was, it's a gift, man. Like I put in the work for years and years and years and years and years, and no one can tell me different.
Yeah.
So, so it's kind of cool. It's a cool gift. To be given an opportunity like that. And then, and I look forward to, like I said, I look forward to what's going to happen in the future, for the kingdom and where it's going to go. It's very exciting. Because you can't, there's no, I don't think there's another team out there that's a more natural, other than maybe like the Young Bucks and the Bullet Club and whatnot. But exactly why they are natural is because they're all very good friends, and so are we. So you know what I mean. So it's very cool. It's very cool.
I will be keeping tabs and watching, man. I'm very happy for you.
Please do.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for you because I just know from your journey you've worked hard, man, and you deserve it.
Thank you.
You deserve it, man. There's nothing makes me happier than I think I mentioned this first time I talked to you when a guy who has been on the indies for a very long time and busted his butt and tried everything and turned over every stone, so to say, to finally get that chance in that break to do something.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a good story.
Like. And that's part of the game. I didn't expect anything like coming in like 1 year in or be like, hey, well, what's the deal, man? Like I expected I was in for the long haul. I knew what I had to do. And everybody has their own story. And I hope everybody can succeed with those hard working stories. Because it's tough, man. It really is. It's really tough. So. I hope anybody that's out there that's like taking this serious and like really wants something out of it gets what they want out of it. But like we're talking, you gotta, you get what out of it what you put in. So that's the deal. That's how it works with anything in life. That's not just wrestling. That's anything.
Yeah, no doubt about that, man. You nailed it. Well, look, man, I'm glad for you with that, man. So we'll be watching. Everybody here, we watching ROH. Ring of Honor TV each and every week. It's one of the easiest shows to watch, and I say that it's only an hour. I don't have to devote a lot of time to get it in weekly. So it's really
that's
cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it was good. I like I said, I've seen all the pictures from the night y'all came out. I won't say anything else because I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, those sweet jackets, huh?
Yeah, man.
Sweet jackets.
Yeah. Hey, tell me a little inside story here. So like, I think you either tweeted or put something on Facebook like the night before this happened where you messed up your beard more than you had intended, or was that just a joke?
Oh, shit. No, I did. I shaved it. I shaved it too short, man. I was kind of pissed off. You know what I mean? Like I was pretty pissed.
Yeah.
It's back to where I wanted it, but like nothing's like oh yeah, I think this is the right length, and then shaving it, it's not like that. It's miserable. I was like, holy shit. Now, granted, it wasn't like super long or anything, but like it still had that like, like something there.
Right.
And I shaved it almost nothing there, and it really ticked me off. But it's back to where it belongs now. So, but yeah, that sucked, man. That was the shit. So I didn't care for that too much. But yeah, that was in '94. Nothing better.
Right, yeah. See, that's what I was trying to figure out. I was like, because it's wrestling, so every time you see a wrestler say something like that, you go,
cosmetic,
"Is he working?"
Yeah, it's very cosmetic.
Is he?
Yeah.
But I was thinking to myself, is he working, or is he telling the truth when he's posting
Oh
that?
no, I was telling the truth.
So yeah, man, and I noticed it in the pictures. I was like, his beard is kind of chopped down a little bit right now. So.
Yeah, oh yeah, a little too much for my liking, but it's all right. It's fine now.
Oh man. All right, so Vinny, man, we didn't talk to us a lot of wrestling tonight. So I hear from a lot of people that know you, and I see your social media posts. I have never been and am not to this day a horror movie buff. Now my wife is, and she gets mad at me because I'll never watch horror movies with her. They just don't do anything for me. But
man, I can smell a divorce coming.
No, we got
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
we got enough other things in common. Now, I will tell you this though. I'm not gonna say I never was into them and like never watched them. So like The Lost Boys, I remember seeing that when I was younger. As a
It's my
teenager.
favorite.
Yeah, Lost Boys. That really was a good movie. But horror movies in general, it's just not my thing. Now I say that movies in general aren't really my thing. I'm not just one to sit down and watch a movie. So I hear you're a horror movie buff. So before we get out of here tonight, let's spend a little time you telling the fans where this comes from. And I hear you're a fanatic actually, and I see it from your social media posts.
I am a fanatic horror movie buff. Came from my mother. My mother was a huge horror fan when I was a kid. Now everybody, when they're kids, they're watching cartoons or whatever it is. I was watching Friday the 13th, Halloween, but at a decent young age, and my mom would just always be like, she'd always remind me all the time, it's not real, it's fake. It's not real, it's fake. It's not real, it's fake. Just to kind of make sure I wasn't scared. Or I wouldn't, or wouldn't end up some psychopath when I was older or anything like that. But she would just remind me, because those are the movies that she loved. You know what I mean? She loved those movies, and my aunt and stuff. They all like that horror genre stuff. So me and my mother would watch those all the time, especially the month of October. They always play that horror stuff on AMC or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We would sit there and watch all the movies back to back around the October times. So I just grew this huge love for it, and I love movies in general, really a lot. So, which is probably why I'm in some sort of entertainment, aspect, So, when I was younger, watching all those horror movies with my mother, I'd always be kind of fan, boom, boom, and then throughout my whole life, I always wanted to collect all these horror movie stuff. So you see people, even when I'm 12 years old now, think of it, 12 years old. Even before that, we started watching them, but 12 years old, I started getting into I want this Jason mask or this whatever. But you see people walking around with the Jason mask that are from CVS. They're plain white, but then when you watch the movie, they're weathered and they have detail and whatever. And I was always that kid that I was that's not a Jason mask. That's that looks like shit. Where'd you get that? I was that's you know what I mean? So I was always that punk kid that I was no, that's not the Jason mask. This, that's what I always have to have that movie authentic everything.
Yeah.
So, so every time Halloween, wherever it was, Halloween parties, I'd always try to go for the bomb costumes and just have these head to toe, movie accurate, spend all this money on it. But I loved it. Halloween's my favorite, holiday out there. Other than Christmas, I love that too. But Halloween is it, and so I'd always have all these head to toe wardrobe costumes, or whatever, because I'd always want to take over the first place prize or whatever. And you've probably heard of the Human Centipede? It's disgusting. You've heard that movie, right?
I'm not even gonna lie to you, no.
Okay, it's kind of weird, but it's this psycho doctor tries to make a human centipede out of people. So it's 3 people, and he tries to sew their mouth to their butt and like make this like like centipede. So like last year, 2 years ago, it's funny. It's a funny story actually. My brother, he's a correctional officer, and one of the officers was having a big Halloween party at their house. Now, the year before that, we went, and I dressed as at that point, I still had like my longer hair, and it was kind of like down to my neck, and then my hair is very curly, so I was the Heath Ledger Joker, and I put a lot of time into that costume, and I won first place. So when the following year came, I said, we got to win first place again, and we got to figure it out. So I was actually kind of off the horror genre, but I was the 1990 movie Shredder from Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it came out really good. And then my brother, I made the Human Centipede. And what I did was I went and we got 2 blow-up dolls, and I put the mouth to his butt, and I wrapped it, and I took the other blow-up doll, put it to the other blow-up doll's butt, and wrapped it, and whatever, and put all this, like, whatever on it, and, like, he came crawling into the party, and he won first place. He didn't win first place, I think, for the costume, but just for the humor of the costume. Like, he was just, like, the people were blown away at how, like, ridiculous it was. So he won first place. So I was always, like, in thought of, like, that horror. Like, I always wanted, like, the best possible stuff because, like, I'd always watch all these movies. So when I got older, I was like, I want to try to get my hands on some of these movie props. So I always did, like, me and my wife's huge on it, too. We'd go to, like, the Monster Mania stuff in Jersey and stuff like that. All these, like, big horror things, because we're big nerds for it. And, for instance, when I was a kid, I wanted the jackets that the Lost Boys wore in the movie.
Yeah.
And now, we have them in my bedroom. They're framed. We have all of them framed in like a nice little thing. So I got those. I have like a big glass structure case of like all the Friday the 13th movie prop masks, original Halloween 1 mask, and knife with it. We got a Puppet Master, like one of the dolls from that in a case. Like we got a ton of stuff. My house is like a museum, actually. If I can
I've seen some of the pictures you posted of them.
Yeah, if I can ever get a Skype going or something in time, maybe we can do it again. I'll give you like a tour through it.
Yeah, do that,
so you can
man.
actually see it. So you can actually see everything. It's kind of wild. It's like walking through like a horror prop museum. It's wild. Well, yeah, man, and that's that. Like it is. It's just cool. Like I just love that genre of movies. It just and then like, and I love movies too. I take stuff for wrestling for movies. Like people always just focus on just the wrestling, but like it's entertainment, man. Like I try to take mannerisms or facials or whatever it is from like characters from movies, because you can, So that's so. That's why I'm also a huge movie guy. So I've always loved that whole world of like entertainment in a whole.
Yeah.
But, like you said, you reached me at the best time, and here we are, October 11th, and, it's the best time. That's my favorite month. And it's my favorite month because my daughter turns 2 years old tomorrow, too. So that's, that's big for me, too.
Dude, they get old quick.
My wife said, she said, she said, I want an October baby. And she got it. October 12th.
My daughter's 8 now, man, and I swear it feels like she was just born yesterday.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
There is nothing. I can't even explain. She scares me, and I'm happy all in one. I can't even explain it. Like when I look at my daughter growing up. So you and I'm sure you'll start feeling it. You feel it now, and it's gonna increase as she gets older. You're like,
I'm sure
man.
it is. I'm sure it is.
I mean, you throw your body in front of a meat grinder to protect them. So.
Right. Well, hopefully the first boyfriend, when he comes over, he looks at everything that's hanging around my house, and he's like, thinks twice maybe.
The irony, man. I was telling my wife that this afternoon. We were talking. I was sitting down eating. I was like, man, she scares me. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the first boy that walks over here, I feel so bad for that kid.
Right.
Yeah, man. So.
Right.
But back to the horror movies, man. Yeah, it never was my thing. It's not that I don't it's not that I don't like them. I don't like them. It's just that I just don't get into it. It's kind of like different styles of wrestling.
Yeah,
Some
sure, of
people
course, of
some people
course.
like
Oh yeah,
luchadors.
people like comic books, people like movies, people like
Yeah, yeah,
toys, people like whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, of course.
yeah. So that's my thing. Now the thing is, here's the other part, man. I'm like I'll get into some science fiction stuff in a New York second though. Like
Okay.
like my co-host Doc, he likes to mess with me because I tell him all the time I believe in aliens. I don't think we the only ones in this universe. He's like, dude, you're an idiot. He
Right.
just, he tells me I'm crazy. But like all the science fiction movies and stuff, I'll watch stuff
Oh
like
yeah, I
that.
think there's some stuff out there. Sure,
Yeah,
I believe that.
So we
Yeah.
get into it about different things, but yeah, horror movies just I don't know, man. It just never
Yeah,
been my
yeah.
thing. But yeah, you got some cool stuff, man. Like the Lost Boys
Yeah,
jackets.
thank you.
You,
Yeah.
dude, you have
Yeah,
a
I
museum.
know
I've
we're
seen the
not.
pictures. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's
crazy, man.
cool. It's that's just our thing, and it's cool that we kind of like like the same stuff or whatever. But like, yeah, that's my like, all right, that's my relax time kind of deal. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was gone like for 3 days this past weekend, got home and like we were like, all right, it's October. Let's start with Halloween 1 and work our way through. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and
Yeah.
just kind of relax together and just kind of that's my time to just kind of chill at home and just get stuff off the mind for a while.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Vinny, man, let you plug your social media stuff and everything before I let you get out of here, man. Let the people know where to find you. I really appreciate you doing this, like I always say. So go ahead and plug where you're at, like
Yeah,
Instagram,
sure.
Twitter, and everything.
Twitter, you can find me at Vinny, that's VINNY _ Marseglia, MARSEGLIA. Same goes for my Instagram. And Facebook is Inksanity Vinny Marseglia. And you can just give that a like, and that'll do it. And keep your eyes peeled for some big stuff for the Ring of Honor's The Kingdom.
Yeah, man, it's good. Definitely some good stuff, man. Well, look, hey, again, congrats on everything.
Thank you so much.
That is almost going to wrap up this week's episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast, where I want to say thanks again to a friend of the show, Vinny Marseglia, for coming on. I mean, Vinny has had a long and great journey in the world of professional wrestling, and man, he's doing big things, and now he is working with Ring of Honor, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, a better guy. It's just I love when I see success stories like Vinny, because those are the guys who bust their asses on the independents, and he is finally doing it, and he is well on his way of making a name for himself in Ring of Honor. More to come with that. We didn't really get too deep into it, but it sounds like from our discussion, there may be some things happening. So we shall see. But good luck, Vinny, man. Thanks again for joining the show. You know how we do it each and every week. We normally close things out when I remember as the producer and host of the show to do a promo of the week. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. If you're a first-time listener and are enjoying our podcast, please do me a favor and us a favor at Booking the Territory. Subscribe to us however you are listening to this podcast right now, whether that is iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, my personal favorite podcast addict via the I can't even get it out, via the Google Play Store on your Android device, or TuneIn Radio. All of those means you can get it from there. And please write us a 5-star review on iTunes if you listen to us that way. You can also follow us on Twitter. That is at BTT_podcast. I am at Mike504Saints, and you can catch Hardbody Harper at CJH Hudat. Give him a break, though. He doesn't tweet a lot. It's just not his thing. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Booking the Territory. You can find our YouTube channel there. Also, we would greatly appreciate it if you used our Amazon referral link. You can check it out in the show notes of this show that you're listening to right now on the device that you're listening on. Or you can go to mikemills.podbean.com and click the Amazon referral link there. We get a little bit in return whenever you purchase something using our referral link, so we'd really appreciate it. You can also donate to the show. The PayPal link is in the show notes as well. It's also at mikemills.podbean.com. And you can also, if the coolest way to support the show is through our Pro Wrestling Tees store. So there's 2 ways to get to it. I'll give you another method. It's facebook.com/bookingtheterritory. Click the shop now button. Pro Wrestling Tees store is there. And while you're on our Facebook page, like the page, help us grow the numbers. We'd really appreciate it. Keep sending those top fives in. This week's top five came from longtime listener of the show at THOG94. TK, we appreciate you sending it in. We got a bunch more to get to, but keep in mind, we will get to them. It's just that I've gotten so many. It does not mean I'm not taking more. So keep sending them in. We really appreciate the listener interactivity when you send those in. So, I'm trying to think, man. I don't think there's anything else that I have right now. Again, we appreciate you tuning into the show. And kick back now. And this week's promo of the week, like I said earlier, if I didn't forget, because I'm a forgetful person from time to time, but this week's promo of the week is Paul Heyman from 2005 ECW One Night Stand. If you recall, that is the very first One Night Stand that they did with the WWE or WWF, whatever the hell it was at that point, WWE. One Night Stand, Paul Heyman cutting a promo during that show. So that is this week's promo of the week. Enjoy it. Again, thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it. So until next time, check out the promo of the week and book it.
And there he is, Bob Ortiz. Bob Ortiz, wait a minute. It's the boss. It is the boss, Paul Heyman. The mad scientist has arrived. What an emotional night this has to be for Paulie. His vision, his life's work, his dream. It's been resurrected. Yes, it has. And Paul Heyman thanking the fans who made it a reality. It's because of the ECW fans that Paul Heyman's dream lives again tonight. He's breaking down worse than you did, Joey. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. It was our life, Mick. It was our life, 24/7 for many years. Thank you, Paul.
I want you to know I'm not crying. My eyes are red because I was in the back smoking a joint with Van Dam. I haven't needed my heart to thank Todd Gordon for giving me the chance to be creative and to book for you crazy bastards. I have a need to thank that man Ron Buffone and his partner Charlie Brazil for sticking with us and sitting in a TV studio and building that TV show for you. You are the craziest bastards I've ever met in my life. I love every one of you. And I was gonna take the high road and just say thank you and leave.
Don't take the high road, Paul.
But I have something to say to you. You see, I've waited a long time to say this to you, Eric Bischoff. But in case you don't notice, it's not Paul Heyman with his tail between his legs going to a WCW pay-per-view. You are in our house, bitch! Oh, wait a minute. Hide your wives, it's Edge! I know nobody with a written promo has the balls to say this to you, but I have 2 words for you. Matt freaking Hardy! Well, with that, I almost forgot about you. Mr. Shoot Promo himself. Bounce checks. ECW went out of business. Hey, John, on a personal note, from all of us, just to you, since you want to shoot, cowboy, the only reason you were WWE champion for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesday. Now, one more time for old time's sake. Right there, so the whole world can see us. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE. This, my friends, is ECW.